You think I'm holding back? You think I'm holding back? I'm out to save you.
Welcome back to Defenders TV Podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Derek, and we're here with you with a very special episode this time. We have an interview with one of the members of the cast of Luke Cage, Justin Swain, who plays Bailey on this season of Luke Cage.
Yeah, absolutely. Welcome, Justin, to the show. I'm obviously one of the other hosts, John, here. Chris can't be with us today, but we're joined here, obviously, by our special guest, Justin, all the way from Connecticut. Is that right, Justin?
Yeah. Hi, guys. Good
Hi.
to be here. I'm from Connecticut, Stamford, Connecticut, just outside of New York City. I'm a New York-based actor, so I go into the city and work, and then come up here and hang out by the ocean in between gigs.
Very nice.
Sounds very nice. And in addition to your acting career, you've also done some written work for film and television, as well as a playwright as well. So you have a lot on your books.
Yeah. I've developed some pilots with different really fantastic people. Done the thing, flown out to LA and been back here. I've also written plays that were produced off Broadway in New York City and also in Chicago and Miami and I think somewhere else. But yeah, so I've done a lot of writing as well as acting and some producing. I feel nowadays with the way media is it's so easy to reach out to people through multiple platforms that you have to be able to do all three of those things anyway. So it's great and allows. Oh, and one interesting thing I'm actually doing right now that's really fun is I've started working in the virtual reality space.
Oh, wow.
And it's really exciting working with a company called Sensorium, or we're in the process of possibly working together and getting that started. And they're the guys that do a lot of work with the Oculus and Samsung.
Very good.
With a guy named Graham Sack, who is a really fantastic writer himself.
Excellent. And are you writing a project with it?
It looks to be that way. I mean, nothing's finalized yet, so I'm not going to go into too much detail with it. But it's an exciting opportunity, and they're awesome guys, super talented, and it's such a brave new world with that medium of virtual reality. So it's a fun kind of thing to get in on the ground floor with.
Absolutely. Yeah, big year for virtual reality this year with Sony releasing their one a couple of weeks ago as well. So an Oculus out earlier on this year. So really interesting stuff to get involved in that, I'd say. Yeah, super fun. And who knows, maybe down the line we'll write a Marvel series or something. Absolutely.
Do it all in virtual reality. I'm just making that up.
Oh, yeah. We won't quote you on that one. Most of our listeners obviously will know you as Bailey on the TV series Luke Cage, member of the NYPD, and worked very closely with Misty Knight. I may have seen Justin come in and give a lot of big revelations within the show throughout the episodes we've watched.
Yeah, absolutely. I suppose first questions. So Bailey essentially, he kind of becomes the de facto partner of Misty Knight. I mean, with Raphael's scarf and the revelations of all that, did you enjoy that transition from, I think we see you in episode 2 where you're one of the members of the forensic team kind of, going round, checking the bodies, doing the examinations. What was it like to do that kind of transition to becoming more intertwined with Detective Misty Knight?
It was totally awesome. it was really wonderful and amazing and totally unexpected, because I think it actually was the pilot that you first see me as the character Bailey. Mm-hmm. And then they had shot a scene with me in episode 5 that ended up getting cut out because of a story point that they wanted to mess with. Right. And they were really kind, and they reached out and said, look, we want you to know that it had nothing to do with performance or anything like that. We were just changing up the story a little bit. I think you'll be happy about kind of where things go. Because what's fascinating about being one of the recurring roles on the series, and I can't speak for what everyone else's experience is, but it seemed to be this is the way it is across the board. When you originally get cast, and when I was cast, I got an email and it said, "Okay, Justin Swain, welcome to the Marvel family.
Oh, wow. Cool.
Excellent.
You're now a part of the MCU." And I was like, "That's amazing! It's really cool." And then they say, "This is your link," and they basically give you a link to a secret website where you get your sides for the episodes you're in, but you don't get anything else.
Oh, right.
Wow.
So you really don't know what's going on because, of course, they want to keep everything secret and compartmentalized. And I totally understand and get it. But in a way, it was like, have you guys ever seen the movie The Princess Bride?
Yes, of course, yeah.
And he tells her in the movie, he goes, they say to me, "Good night, Wesley, sleep well. Too bad we have to kill you in the morning." And that's exactly what it was like working on because I never knew until I got another email,
right?
If I was going, how and where my character was going at that point. So every time I left the set, it was like, "Yeah, goodbye, sleep well. Hopefully, I don't have to kill you in the morning." And then I would get another email, and I noticed that the pages were getting longer. And it was like getting a present, like a Christmas present every time. And my wife would freak out and go, "How many pages this time?" and it was wonderful. And then to be able to work with Simone, who was just amazing, totally giving and welcoming on set. I just loved it. And like every time the character grew and I got to work with her more, it was just more of like a blessing. And it was really, really cool too, because the entire process was more like shooting a gigantic film than it was like shooting a television series. So I shot a few others, network shows and whatnot. And this, you felt like you were part of this, huge universe, but also like it was something where you had the kind of freedom on set to feel like you were doing a film where you could really like, ad lib some stuff here and there. If it's good, they keep it. And if not, like they pull another take. But the crew, Cheo, everybody, they were amazing.
That's really interesting because, as an audience, we consume, we don't, but the majority of the audience consumes it, maybe does the binge watching. And I mean, that's kind of really come from Netflix. And like, it was kind of one of the questions, and you've kind of answered it in some way like that. What's the experience to shoot it? I kind of just assumed that you almost binge shoot the episodes, and as you say, you've done, Law and Order, Boardwalk Empire. How does the experience of a Netflix shoot differ? I mean, is it much more concentrated? Because as you say, it's like doing a film project rather than a regular TV project, or like, it just sounds like it's different for the audience, but also for the actors and those involved.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it speaks to the artistry involved in what they're doing. Every single script that I got, or every little bit that I got would apply itself to a new episode, and it seemed as though like each episode was happening within the course of 2 weeks, and so it was a different director every time. But there's a continuity though. Coming, I think, from the top down with people like Jeff Loeb and Cheo and Hodari Coker, galvanizing the vision. But then each individual episode is filmed by a different director that lends their kind of spice or take on it too. So you kind of get that feeling of such a collaboration between. You have the actors in front of the camera collaborating, but you have such an amazing collaboration behind the scenes that's happening as well. That does turn it into, like you're saying, you don't really binge shoot it, but like it seemed to me to be a well-oiled machine. I didn't work on Daredevil or Jessica Jones, but it's the same people behind the scenes mostly are working in terms of the crew and the makeup, and it's the same studio and everything. So. It gives you freedom because the behind the scenes people know what they're doing so well that you can just go in and concentrate on what you're doing in front of the camera, and there never seemed to be any snags or anything slowing down the process. It was very exciting and very creative, which was like the best part of it all.
Yeah. It is very interesting on the show that they do have a lot of different directors in every episode. Does it feel different when there's a different director behind the camera each day when you're coming in?
Well, for me, it was really cool to see my part grow and then be there with directors that were stepping in, and they were new, and I'd been there a few times, and so that was a different experience for me because I'd kind of come in on other series and worked on like one particular episode or one particular thing with one director, and this time I was watching new directors come in, and they would definitely add a different energy or different feel to it. I mean, it was awesome of Paul to cast me in the pilot. Mm-hmm. And then later on, I think I worked with Steven Sirjic, who I think did episode 10. Yeah. And he was really wonderful with the camera movement and the way that like all this frenetic stuff was happening in the story. And so I felt as though he was trying to mirror that with what he was doing with the camera, how it was flying through the police station and picking people up and then coming back and landing on a conversation and flying out again. Yeah. And all one continuous shot. And there was a lot of choreography involved in that, even though it's just really people walking. But, I slammed into a few extras a couple times. It was crazy. It was really a lot of fun. And that's what you got from the different directors. Some were more interested in the moments and others were very interested in the camera movements and the moments as well. So you basically got a smorgasbord of talent that you could learn from. It was really awesome.
Excellent. And one of the other things, obviously, about the Netflix shows is that they're all being released in the same day. Is it a different experience for you with, friends and family when you have an episode of Law and Order coming up and you get them all over to have a drink watching your episode? Whereas this is like 13 episodes are coming out and you're going, well, you can skip the second, third, and fourth of those because I'm not in that.
Yeah, just skip to the end. I'm in the second half of the series.
Yeah.
No, it was actually really funny because a lot of people watch the pilot and then, I'm pretty quickly in and out of the pilot and they go, oh, I saw you. That was really great. Yeah. And then I'm like, no, but there's more. Just wait. But you don't want to rush them through. You want them to feel the story out. So I got a big bump of people that were interested in it when the pilot came out and got this big kind of, oh, cool, I saw you in a couple lines. And then like cut to a week or a week and a half later, people got back to me and they'd be like, oh my God, you're in it a lot.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, that's really, just wait until the end. So that was the difference in this experience. But the funny thing is my father-in-law is a comic. He's obsessed with them. He owns thousands of dollars worth of comics. Right. And he knew the whole Luke Cage story before we even shot it. And so the first person to watch the series from beginning to end was actually him.
Really?
Wow, yeah.
And then he came over to my house in Connecticut and talked to me all about it. We went out for dinner. And he was the first one to get to the end of it and really, really dig it. I'm actually going to see Doctor Strange with him when it comes out in a couple of weeks. So it was pretty funny that was the person that got through it the most.
That's definitely a way to impress your father-in-law.
Oh, yeah. Dude, I was so happy. I was so happy.
Absolutely. Like, did he get you to read any Luke Cage comics? Like, are you a comic fan? Have you kind of dabbled in the comic books before?
I was a huge MCU fan, like a huge fan of the Avengers. The funny thing is when I booked this, I had 2 auditions that day. I had one in the morning for a network show, and then that afternoon I had this audition for this thing called Tierra.
Right.
Which was the code name.
Excellent.
Yeah, I had no idea what it was. They gave me basically a Word document with a couple lines scribbled out on it.
Right.
And come in and do this. And they were funny, and I was like, oh, this is cool. I had no idea what I was auditioning for.
Right.
And so I was actually flying up the coast to hang out with my family on Labor Day, and I was in a convertible. And my agent called and said, you got it. And I was like, what? What are you talking about? I couldn't hear. I had to pull a car over. You got it. You booked this thing, Tierra. And I was like, oh, great. Sounds great. I had no idea what it was. And then when I got to my house, I reached out to people and figured out that it was the next Marvel show.
Right.
And I was like, oh, my God, that's amazing.
That's cool.
And then my father-in-law was there, and I told him, that what I was doing. And he goes, do you know why they call it Tierra? And then he knew the whole history of Luke Cage and why it was called Tierra to begin with.
Right.
And stuff. So it was really funny because I had no idea what I was getting into. And then even in the process, they keep everything so secret. Mm-hmm. I had no idea where my part was going until I figured out where it was going. So that was the kind of process. It was all kind of. So I guess that's a long way to say I was more interested in the Marvel Cinematic Universe than I was in actual comic. Then all of a sudden to be part of that universe, that was for me like a big kind of. Whoa, this is a big deal.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah, that's cool. Like, I mean, because as the show goes on, it's like you push Misty Knight, like, you know, you challenge her when she goes off to try and confront Luke Cage. You're kind of like this really good sounding board for her as well. Like, she's the gut and you're kind of the evidence or the science. Like, how did that dynamic between yourself and Simone Missick, like, how did that kind of build and work? Oh, it's a really good sort of development and combination of you two actors doing that. It's really good.
Yeah, I was so excited to see that the writers, who were incredibly talented, were like, they kind of picked up on something there, and between us, like, I felt that, I mean, Simone was just so awesome and so easy to work off of, that when we got into those conversations, it just felt very natural. Right. And Cheo, the showrunner, he was there from when we were filming the finale. And there's a point where I'm explaining something to Misty in the finale, and he said to me something. I thought that was really cool, and I was really kind of touched by it, because like, he was like, yeah, I would hear your voice, like Bailey's voice in my head, like being this kind of analytical, you know, full of details type of guy. Mm-hmm. And I would write it that way, and that's kind of what you're doing when you're with Simone. Is she wants to go, and you want to be very detail oriented and make sure you get everything right, which is kind of a really wonderful juxtaposition of how passionate she is as a detective. Yeah, and I'm a little more analytical, and that can be frustrating, you know, and create conflict, but at the same time work together. So I thought that was really cool, and it was really awesome just to work off of Simone and how, you know, she's awesome on the show. I mean, she totally took Misty Knight and made it her own, and now she is Misty Knight. It's unbelievable to watch that happen. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, because actually as well, Bailey is the character that identifies Willis Stryker as well, and he kind of makes the leap that, you know, what was it, that this guy Luke Cage, he's just got his driving license, that there's nothing else on him, there's no kind of credit cards or anything like that. So, like, Bailey is also a really important, storyline developer here for that. And like, okay, it's maybe one or two lines, but it really kind of starts to feed the development of the Harlem police going after Willis Stryker and so on. Mm-hmm. And Misty's relationship as well with Luke Cage, maybe starting to figure out that, you know, where he's coming from. So like that was really cool, I think. You started off that the secret code and the secret website sort of, that presumably started throwing back more information to you.
Yeah, it was really funny too, because early on there was a scene in episode 5 that they ended up not needing, you know, because of story stuff. But in the text, it said Bailey, you know, has glasses. Right. Yeah. And I was kind of running out of the house to go to shoot it, and I was like, oh, he has glasses, and so I grabbed my wife's glasses on the way out of the house. Right. and I got there, we started shooting the film, and I'm looking at the details, and as I'm looking through, it has her prescription, mm-hmm. and I started getting sick. Because I was looking through it, I was looking so closely at the details, and so I start taking the glasses off, mm-hmm. and then the glasses, kind of wearing them and looking at things and taking them off, became like a really large part of my character. It became this kind of analytical thing, and it was just funny because later on they asked me about like making a pair of glasses for me, mm-hmm. And if they were prescription, but the funny thing was they were my wife's, and I was like, every time Bailey's looking at something really close, my head's kind of spinning, and I have to and that was kind of one of the moments in it that I felt in that scene that they eventually cut, though, that I was like, oh, there's a lot more to this guy. And he kind of really cares about Misty and cares about what's going to happen to her, and whether it's some type of paternal role or something like that, he does start to say, look, you gotta check yourself on these things. Like, you're getting involved in the wrong area of the law here. I want you to stay at least within the details. Like, look at the evidence with me. Yeah. But I also defer to her a lot. Like, I think I said, at one point, like, you're the visualist. Like, you look, because I mean, she has that skill that no one else has. So that was really cool, like to work with her that way, and to like with the glasses and everything, have that start to become the way Bailey works and the way Bailey thinks, and it's a representation of his analytical nature.
Yeah, there's not very many men in Harlem that stand up to Misty Knight. You definitely got an opportunity to do that with telling her just to back down and focus on what she's doing, because she could be doing something very stupid. So Bailey definitely has a little hero moment there, trying to protect Misty.
Yeah, and you got to do it cautiously though.
Yeah,
she's the force to be reckoned with.
Absolutely. Speaking of analytical characters in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, we obviously have Agent Fitz and Simmons over in S.H.I.E.L.D., who are probably quite similar to your character of Bailey in that they always go with the evidence. Everything that could be a possible crossover back into the other TV Marvel universe, where Bailey visits the S.H.I.E.L.D. helicarrier, possibly.
Oh my God, that would be like the coolest thing in the world. I have no idea. They keep everything so close to the vest. Mm-hmm. Even watching the show, you're on pins and needles going, what are they going to keep?
Right.
Like when I was waiting for it to come out, and first you're kind of sworn to secrecy about anything in regard to the show, mm-hmm. and also you're going, what are they going to use? Because I've had friends work on other Marvel shows, and they've had 5 days of shooting, and then all of a sudden they show up, something explodes and they're gone,
right?
And they're like, what happened? And so I was definitely nervous about that aspect of it. When you're watching it, going, okay, what are they going to keep? And I was fortunate enough that they really built off that relationship between me and Misty, and hopefully that'll continue, and I will show up in other places. But I really don't know. Yeah. They keep everything really secret.
Always keep close to a main cast member. That's an important tip, isn't it? Have some really good dialogue with the main cast members, and usually your scenes will get kept then as well. So
yeah, and don't die.
Yeah, very important.
Stay inside. Don't leave the police department.
Yeah,
and that could be really cool, because like the Netflix shows have. They've really kept some of those characters moving through each of the different series. Like, I think we saw the assistant district attorney come in from Jessica Jones into Daredevil season 2 into Luke Cage. So there's always that chance that you could be asked for some forensic role in The Defenders. Like, that would be really cool.
Unbelievable. I wait for the phone call. I mean, that would be just amazing. It was so cool to be there on set too. In the days when like Luke Cage, like Mike would come on set, and Rosario Dawson came on set, and we would all, I don't know if you guys have seen the final episode, but there's a point where everyone's kind of, together in the precinct, and that was really fun, like to be there and to be included in that, and have a role in that, and work off, for minimally, but off Mike and Rosario and those guys too. I mean, it was really just such talented people involved. Ron Cephas Jones, who plays Fish, and that guy. I mean, I don't know him that well, but we did theater together a long time ago at Williamstown Theater Festival, and there's a lot of theater people that they use that are just really talented people, and I love that they're getting getting the chance to be part of this cool universe.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. We music's a really important part of this show, and we hear in episode 2, I think Misty Knight calls out that Bailey, don't give us one of your show tunes. So, I mean, firstly, what would be some of the show tunes that you think that Bailey would be playing?
I'm kind of sad they did cut some stuff out of scenes. That became a running joke in the scenes, and they actually pulled back on keeping it. I think it was a pacing issue or whatever. Mm-hmm. But in the scene in episode 7, it actually started with me kind of looking at her going, she's worried of people wondering if she was corrupt too. And I said, look, you're not corrupt. You like show tunes.
Right.
So you're, so I know you're fine. And we had this back and forth about it. And they eventually that got cut out. It was kind of sad. But it became this thing where we talked about show tunes like 2 or 3 more times in the episodes. And I don't know, that morning was really great. And when they were shooting the pilot and that little line came out where she goes, okay, don't start singing show tunes on me. Because Cheo Hodari Coker was on the set, and he came over to me and he goes, we're going to turn the shot around. You might be able to ad-lib some stuff. It'll be fun, like do some show tunes, whatever. And I was like, okay, cool. And then we started running and shooting certain stuff. And then he came back over me. He goes, okay, listen, I got good news and bad news. What do you want to hear first? And I said, I'll take the bad news. And he goes, the bad news is we're not going to have time to turn the shot around on you. That's too much today. I was like, okay, great. Well, it's all right. He goes, but the good news is we have a lot more for you to do later on. So we'll see you again. And I was like,
great.
I was like, I'll take that any day of the week.
Excellent.
But I think at the time I was thinking I'd sing something stupid like, there's a bright golden haze on the concrete, like something ridiculous. Because all the blood and dead bodies, nothing in the office. It's like, oh, here we go again.
And you do get a moment in Harlem's Paradise, one of probably the best looking sets I think has ever been on one of the Netflix Marvel shows. Absolutely beautiful. Unfortunately, your scene down there happens to be with a dead body, as tends to be the case with Bailey. We did have a discussion about the set down there with so many wonderful musicians being there. We had this kind of discussion as, is there an opportunity for a lot of the cast to kind of gather down there in the background to watch some of the performances? Is that kind of a hangout joint for some people? Did you get the opportunity to get down there for any of the live sets that were happening at all?
I wasn't there for when they were performing.
Right.
However, that was where I hung out in between shots.
Right.
So like in between shots, doing multiple things. If you wanted to just hang out and not go back up to the dressing room area, you just go kind of hang out in Harlem Paradise.
Of course.
So
cool.
That was really kind of awesome. As like you said, it's a really awesome set, and you just kind of chill out, back there until it was your time to jump in front of the camera. So that was cool. But I was never there on the days they were filming some of those musical acts, and that's a shame because you're right. The music is gorgeous, and it just lends such a wonderful atmospheric nature to the whole piece. It's essential, and I love it. I think the music is just amazing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You mentioned to us that you had been in Boardwalk Empire. So did you bump into the Daredevil in any way, Charlie Cox?
Actually, I don't know if Charlie would remember it, but on the day I was, I think it's episode 9 in the second season. I played one of the heads in the IRA. And actually took out McGonagall because he wanted to make a deal with the English, and Charlie was on my, behind the scenes on my team in a way, like thematically, and so he and I worked opposite him for a second. I got to meet Daredevil before he was Daredevil on the set of Boardwalk Empire, both of us Irish guys, and he was wonderful. Like I said, it was only a couple of days worth of shooting, and I don't know if you remember, but he was just wonderfully kind, and it was an awesome experience. I was working with him and Steve Buscemi, and I was firing a Tommy gun.
Excellent.
And one of the things we did is, if you were firing the gun, you had to train on the gun. So in New York City, there's an underground shooting range in Soho, where almost all the guns that they use on movie sets are stored. And I spent the afternoon shooting guns with blanks with Steve Buscemi and his son for a good 2 or 3 hours. Because I think the gun guy knew that Steve Buscemi was coming. So after we shot the Tommy gun, he goes, "Do you want to shoot something else?" And we were like, "Yeah, that sounds great." We shot 9s, we shot Glocks, a whole bunch of stuff, all blanks. And it's kind of sad because they actually didn't use the gun was too big. They didn't use the final shot that I did with the Tommy gun in Boardwalk Empire. They changed it to a pistol. But at one point, I got to shoot the Tommy gun and just really tear this guy apart, shoot him into thousands of pieces. Right. But then they thought it was too distracting, so I shot him with a pistol. But it was awesome, and I got to meet Daredevil, and he was a really awesome guy, really great guy.
Excellent. Always a dream to shoot a Tommy gun as well, of course,
Oh, totally.
And as an Irishman and an Englishman as well, it's good that you had that little connection to the Ireland-England war. It's all resolved now. We're able to sit in a room and podcast, so it's okay.
A good friend of mine, he's Kevin O'Donnell. He's a first generation Irish kid, and he loved that I got to play that part in the show.
Excellent.
One thing is we always like to throw back to any guests that we have on the show. Is there anything that you want to talk about? Like, have you got any up and coming projects, or that you want to just give a shout out to, or anything like that as well?
Yeah, no, I'm waiting, to find out what's going on in Marvel Cinematic Universe and finding out what's going on there. And I'm also, meantime, doing a lot of writing. Like I think we talked about some of the virtual reality stuff that I've gotten into, as well as I have a couple pilot projects that I've written that people have shown some interest in. I'm kind of developing something with Assembly Entertainment with a woman named Christina Wynn about the fishermen in Gloucester, Massachusetts that are overregulated by the government. And so they essentially turn to smuggling to survive. So they start using their fishing boats to bring in a little more than fish in the ocean.
Okay, cool. Wow.
And get involved in some pretty, desperate times, desperate measures type of stuff. And there's another project that's been dear to me that has been out and about for a couple of years, and we're hoping that someone will pick it up, maybe turn it into a mini series or take it to series. It's a pilot project about the first ever wrongful death case brought up against the police department in the United States in the 1970s for the killing of an African American.
Wow.
And it's based on a real story, a true story,
Right.
Of a lawyer named Lawrence O'Donnell, who was a cop, became an attorney, figured out that it was all shady what they did because he used to be a cop, and he goes up against his own people in order to bring justice to this widower who files a wrongful death case, and no one else would represent her. And it's in the middle of all the busing riots and the segregation that was going on in Boston at the time. And it's a really cool script, and it's also a heroic thing that this guy did. So hopefully we can get that off the ground as well, because it's also all based in reality.
Right.
So
and again, one of the big things obviously about Luke Cage is the timing of that show and the things that it's covering. It's just come along at the right time to have those kind of conversations. So it sounds like this another really interesting take on the kind of environment in the US throughout the decades.
And I have to say that like the Luke Cage is a very entertaining, wonderful thing to watch, especially with all the Marvel and everything, and also adds something very relevant to our cultural conversation, and that's what's beautiful about it, and why it is more than just a series. It really is perfect for the time that it's in.
Yeah,
what they did with.
Without a doubt. So we had a little technical issue with the end of our conversation with Justin Swain. I want to say a huge thank you to him for joining us. If you want to connect with Justin, you can get him on Instagram. Just look for Justin Swain Official over on Instagram. That's JUSTIN SWAIN Official on Instagram. You can meet him on Facebook over at Justin Swain, or on Twitter at JSwain Official. He's represented by MLCPR, who I want to say a huge thank you to for organising this interview with Justin.
Cool.
Well, thank you so much for joining us, Justin. I'm sure our listeners have really enjoyed that discussion about your time on the show, and we're really looking forward to seeing if you turn up in Iron Fist or in Defenders next year.
Yeah, or if there's a Misty Knight spin-off show, like it could be Misty and Bailey.
Yeah, I got my glasses ready.
That'd be cool.
Excellent. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll talk to you again soon, listeners.
Yeah, Justin, thank you so much for joining us. Yeah.
Thank you for having me, guys. Really appreciate it.
You think I'm holding back? You think I'm holding back? I'm out to save you.
Thanks for listening to Defenders TV Podcast, a TV podcast industries production. Our theme tune's provided by the wonderful Mississippi McDonald and the Cottonmouth Kings. If you want to help out the podcast and you've enjoyed listening to us, there's some really easy ways to do it. If you can share our episodes through your social media channels like Twitter, Reddit, Facebook, or Google+, that gets some extra listeners into us. If you want to leave us a review on iTunes or a rating, just leave a 5-star rating, click the button, or go to iTunes through defenderstvpodcast.com/iTunes. We'll take you straight to our page and leave us a review or a rating there. That always helps out independent podcasts. And also, as always, we love to hear your feedback about the show's interaction with our audience is what we really, really love. So you can send us feedback to feedback@defenderstvpodcast.com. Thanks so much for listening, and we'll talk to you next time.